What's going on, guys? So the new TCG ban list just dropped. So I want to do this tier list to kind of tell you where decks are, where they kind of could be after this list. And you'll be surprised with some of my answers. I think the meta does shift in a little bit of a good direction until the next set comes out. Unfortunately, Snake Eyes is literally about to get some crazy support in the next set, Rage of the Abyss or whatever it is. So let's get started. Voiceless Voice gets a little better with this list because it's a deck that didn't take any hits. It's a deck that can technically use the Fiendsmith stuff, but the Fiendsmith stuff is more of a garnet. It's no longer a bridge to anything anymore. But it's still a way to make like Caesar and a deck that has a lot of extra deck space. You could see this deck actually do something. So I'm going to put it at tier 2. Snake Eyes Fiendsmith, I'm going to knock it down to tier 1, but literally it's still good. Yugioh Fiendsmith, I think it's at the top of the pack for this short period of time, for a very short period of time. Fiendsmith Chimera, another tier 2 deck, probably a little bit better than Voiceless because it already had a good Voiceless matchup before, and it really didn't. All it lost was Beatrice, and you really didn't have to play Beatrice in the deck anyway. Runic Whitewoods, this deck is okay. Skill Drain is gone. This deck was basically Runic Stun, but a little worse. But they can still play Floodgates like Rivalry, Synchro Zone. So I would put them somewhere like in the middle of tier 2. I think they are better than Voiceless just inherently, just because of this crazy runic stuff that you can do. Rescue Ace Fiendsmith, this deck could creep into tier 1 if and only if a lot of the better players pick it up. I know people that play it, and it's a good deck, but before the ban list, it was a lot worse than Snake Eyes. It was very clearly worse than Snake Eyes. But it has a great match. Like, Turbulence set 4 pass is still scary, like, to this day. Like, it literally will make you like crap your pants. Okay. Melodious, this deck gets better. You got Eva back. This deck actually, I would put it very high up in tier 2. Maybe below Runic Whitewoods just because it can't do some of the, it doesn't have the versatility that Whitewoods has. And that the just stupid runic engine that recycles forever. Sprite Fiendsmith specifically, a good solid tier 2 deck. Kashtira with the hit to Prosperity, to be honest with you, I think this deck goes to Rogue. I mean, because the deck was already very inconsistent, and there was a lot of times where Pot was your only play. So I think it hurts the deck a lot. Shifter's still around, so you could say bottom of tier 2. But for the sake of this, I'm gonna say no. But it's at the very top of Rogue. Okay, like, understand that. Centurion can't Calamity Lock anymore. This deck has been Rogue. Like, I don't even know why they were worried about it. I'm not even gonna talk much more about it. It's just not that good. Gimmick Puppets. This deck's super Rogue now. You'll still have people trying to play it. It can still FTK. But not easily. Supposedly, it just made it a lot harder, not being able to just loop and loop and loop. So that's good. Memento Fiendsmith, this deck has the chance to go to tier 1, but right now it's just at the top of tier 2. I think it's a little bit better than Chimera Fiendsmith. But it's a deck that does take a very good pilot to do properly, because the deck has so many different lines and different hands that you have to play around. Mimighoul, another example of a good solid rogue deck that depends on stupid floodgates and dimension shifter. It's there. I mean, it's gonna be there for a while, and it's getting good support. The next set, Pure Whitewoods, a deck that definitely somewhere probably better than Centurion because you can mix it. But I would say Cash is still better. But it's still a rogue deck. Ritual Beast, this deck somewhere in the middle of tier 2. it's a deck that has really good matchups against a lot of these other decks just due to Dimension Shifter. And Protos is such a stupid card. Now, Tenpai Dragons remains tier 1. Probably above, like, Rescue Ace. Yeah, probably above, like, Rescue Ace, Fiendsmith. And this could be Fire King, Fiendsmith, Snake Eye. Anything that can utilize Snake Eye but doesn't need all the copies of Ash and Bonfire. I mean, of Ash and Poplar and all that. So Tenpai definitely still tier 1. I mean, nothing really got hit. Singing Summoning to 1 doesn't just kill the deck. They just start playing set rotation, and now they have 3 copies again, pretty much. And maybe play like 1 Fenrir and a Pressure Planet. Just some more rogue decks like Heroes, just kind of show you where everything is. Heroes is like the bottom of rogue, you know, like somewhere in the mix of rogue. I mean, things like Dark Law are really good right now. Dark World, another deck that, especially right now after this ban list, you know, a lot of people weren't playing Droll before. And decks like this can actually do some crazy stuff. And it can play the Fiendsmith engine to kind of bridge. It can't bridge with it really, but it can still play the Fiendsmith engine as a way to play around Nib and stuff like that. Sky Striker variants, like, these decks are kind of crazy always. But, you know, they're always going to be just rogue decks. Labyrinth. Labyrinth is a deck that is so resilient. Like, it never gets hit on the ban list. All that got hit really was Beatrice. So the Fiendsmith Labyrinth really, I don't think you play that anymore. I think you just play pure Trap Labyrinth. But don't be surprised if this deck kind of sneaks up and does some crazy stuff this format. Because it still can do all the unfair stuff that, like, Beatrice allowed, but it can do it without Beatrice because it has Lady that can just set the card. You know, it doesn't have to do Angel of Blue Tears and all that. Beatrice definitely made the deck better, but it doesn't make or break this deck. So it's somewhere in the middle of the pack for sure. Probably worse than Ritual Beast. But yeah, I mean, these are all like the main decks. I know some of them were just kind of meme decks, but just kind of give you an idea of where everything is. You know, you got Cash, top of Rogue. They still got Shifter. As long as Cash has Shifter, it'll be around. As long as Unicorn and Fenrir are at 3, yeah, don't be surprised. Sprite is a very sticky deck. It can do everything. It can play through multiple hand traps. It's a deck that just, you know, when it goes off, it just goes off. They can make Toad now easily. Yeah, so don't be surprised about that. Memento is kind of the deck that's like right there on the border. Like, this deck could easily get to tier 1, but it just needs a little help. I mean, it really just needs a little help. But yeah, all these other ones, and you could almost say Rescue Ace isn't proven enough, but I think Rescue Ace is good. A lot of top players are experimenting with this deck, especially post list. And it's a deck that never really died. It got hit so hard with the Airlifter hit that people, and there was all these new shiny toys like, oh hey, look, Snake Eyes, we can go play that deck. Rightfully so, because this deck was still expensive and there was no point in playing it. But now, you know, you only played 1 Poplar and 1 Snake Eyes Ash in this deck anyway. So you played the engine more as and it really, you don't even have to play it at all, but now you could start experimenting with that, and now you have a small Snake Eyes engine that you can bridge into. It's just look out for this deck. Yubel, again, pretty much untouched. I think this is the king right now. I really do, because you typically just use the Fiendsmith engine. You didn't really have to use Beatrice in this deck. It never was that important. A lot of people didn't even play Beatrice in the deck. And same with Appaloosa. Like, you didn't really have to play Appaloosa in this deck either. I mean, to build a really good inboard. So, anyway, that's it for the new tier list. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Is there a dark horse deck? My personal dark horse deck right now that could really do something is like Lightsworn, Tyr, something of that nature, something that can make like the Pilgrim. You know, you can still use the Fiendsmith engine. You got the grass is greener. Yeah, those decks, you know, just all gas. Because you're not going to have Appaloosa on boards anymore. And that was something that Lightsworn and Tier kind of struggled against, especially trying to just start their plays. Because unless they mill, you know, it's really hard to chain block unless you can mill. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you on the next one.